Happy New Year, everyone. After a tumultuous 2021, many of us are looking for a fresh start, a chance to get it tight and right in 2022. But how do you get there, especially as the pandemic lingers, taking a toll on our mental and physical well-being? There are so many things that are not within our control, but tonight we focus on the things we can control. We're helping you resolve to be your very best self. Good evening and welcome to another special edition of the Daily Drum in collaboration with our sister station, WHUT-TV. This is 360 degrees of health for the new year. Fitness, food, and feeling fine for 2022. We're going to hear from fitness experts to help you get in shape and keep it that way. We'll talk to a woman who has overcome the mental health challenge of food addiction. Also with us, a nutritionist who will provide some insight about healthy cooking and eating. We will not take phone calls tonight, but we invite you to join the conversation online using the hashtag WHUR360Health. Tonight's discussion is being streamed live on WHUR.com, Facebook, and YouTube. Let's introduce you to our wellness experts. First, we have Dr. Shamin Castor, registered dietitian in the College of Nursing and Allied Health Sciences. We also have Tanya Lewis-Wells, owner and operator of Iron Girls Athletics, and Rotunda Rowe Mobley, physical fitness trainer with Iron Girls Athletics. They run an amazing program and gym in the DMV. Also joining the discussion, Michelle Pettis, author of Living Large, the stories of a food addict. Well, thank you all for spending some time with us. I want to go to you first, Dr. Castor, because we are still in the midst of a health crisis right now. And of course, we have the pandemic and the wide-ranging impact that it is having not only on our minds, but on our bodies. Can you talk to us, first of all, about some of the bad habits that have happened for so many of us in the midst of the pandemic, and how do you make that nutritional change to the good habits?
All right, thank you so much for being here. I think
Sure.
One of the things that we need to start doing is get back to the kitchen. We seem to make Uber Eats our go-to kitchen.
Yes.
Let's get back to the kitchen and keep it simple. Let's get back to cooking. And when I'm talking about cooking, I'm talking about cooking healthy meals. Including the vegetables in our plate and making our plate look like 50% of it is coming from the vegetables. Eating whole food rather than processed food, cutting down from like white rice to brown rice, having the baked potatoes instead of the French fried. And just to real quick, a potato is not a vegetable. It's not a vegetable, so that doesn't count. That's the starch. Adding baking the food, having baked chicken and baked fish rather than frying it. So then if we are cooking our meals, we are able to control the amount of grease, the amount of salt that we are putting in. Because we know that high amount of salt would lead to impact those that have high blood pressure, and a high amount of processed food could lead to gaining weight. The other thing is the portion sizes. We tend to eat a bit more than we need. Cut down the portion size to the actual portion size you're supposed to have. Half a cup of rice when you cook it will give, like a full cup of rice when you cook it will give you at least 3 servings. Cut down the serving sizes. So I think, and it cut down the processed snack. So what we have done in our family in the past 2 years to dealing with the pandemic, because I have a mother that lives with me that she's diabetic. So you have to cook the food. So there's nothing in my house where you could open the bag and eat the chip right away. You have to cook it, and you got to get the vegetables. You got to get it ready. So that's one thing that I had to do for her to help her, and then cut down her portion size so she could stay home. And while being at home and not be able to go back home to her home country where she could get access to fresh fruit and vegetable. So I had to try to do that for her here. So a lot of time we're eating more than we need to. We are bored, we are frustrated, we're feeling up anxiety as a result of the fact that we're in a pandemic. We tend to eat more than we need to. So we need to shift. We need to actually like create a meal pattern, shift to eating breakfast, lunch, and dinner and a snack rather than eating more than we're supposed to. So that's one thing that we could do, cut down the portion sizes and set up a meal pattern, set up a meal plan. I have a 6-year-old. He tends to eat every 3 hours. So I put the snacks on the table. I put the fruits and the vegetables. I put the apple, the oranges on the table for him so he could get access to it. So that way he's not eating anything that's processed and that he's used to. Well, he's used to eating healthy anyway. So those are some of the things that you have to do at home. You kind of have to be deliberately and purposefully with it, with your eating, by setting up a plan, by setting up a meal. And then you cut out the portion size. For my mom, I would cut down the portion size in the morning for her and cut out the portion size midday so she could get used to eating healthy. Well, she was eating healthy at home in Haiti, but here she has access to all these processed foods. So we had to cut down the processed food, cut down on the salt, using fresh seasoning in her diet and her meal, so that way she'll eat something healthy that tastes good without all the extra salt and all the extra seasoning. So those are some of the things that you have to do, and you have to do it, and you have to do it purposely, deliberately, and intentionally. You have to be intentionally the way you eat, intentionally the way you shop for the food that you need to be at home, so that way you're not putting yourself in position of eating a lot of processed food items.
Tanya Lewis, I know that this is the real busy time for gyms and fitness centers. Everybody wants to have the New Year's resolution. I'm going to get back in the gym and I'm going to change my body. But at this point, we are almost 3 weeks in, and a lot of people are already starting to fall off. And I would imagine concerns about the pandemic don't help. Talk to me about the kind of fitness goals that you are hearing from people, and how do you keep them on track?
Well, actually, Ro and I both own Iron Girls Athletics, and we really don't have that problem. I mean, Ro's story is enough to keep everybody. We already had a following well before we opened these doors. Ro was 329 pounds, and she got down to 137 and became a trainer. Because of that, there was already a following. She's still my trainer to this day. What we're doing differently at Iron Girls and the following we've had, on social media and in our doors, it's stayed steady because we offer more than just a workout. Everything that the doctor just talked about in here, not only do you get your training with someone who's done that journey, but in here we do the meal plans, we do meal preps, we have workshops. So it's engaging where folks learn how to cook. We do educational workshops. And because we're not a franchise and we both own this place, we can set it up with small groups. This isn't a big chain. So Ro purposely runs the programs where we have a smaller amount of people all through the day. So falling off isn't an issue for us. If anything, we're just talking earlier about we need more space. So we kind of have the opposite problem here, because I think of all that we offer and that she's lived everything that people say they can't do. You can't tell someone that's been 329 pounds that got down with no surgery what your ailments are, because everything that I try to tell her I can't do, quite frankly, she doesn't want to hear it, because that's a whole nother level of pain and medical issues that she's lived through and survived.
Well, Ro, I would imagine that with that really great story, I'm sure that you still have some people who don't have the same kind of mental tenacity that you've had, and I know that some people, they every year, right after New Year's, they start with that New Year's resolution, but they fall off. They get tired, or they want a quick fix. Talk to me about what you do to keep them motivated, and some of the things that you tell them to keep their fitness routine intact.
Well, what I try to do is explain to them about my story and how I went about trying to lose the weight. I have a doctor, but my primary doctor, who initially had said I was just too fat. When I told her that my back was hurting, my knees was hurting, and she was like, Ro, you just too fat. And I'm like, okay, all right. And that's the way it is. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to prove to you that I can lose this weight. So I decided that after I started working out, of course, I had all kinds of injuries and pain, just like anybody else. But I was determined to lose the weight. I did little things with fasting. I fast. And I know a lot of people want to do that to try to lose the weight fast, but it's not a healthy way. As the doctor could tell you, it's not a healthy way of doing it. Learning how to eat right and eating healthy meals is when I decided to go to school and learn, the nutritionist way of going about how to eat right. So when I did that, finding out that it worked, along with exercising and getting my rest and drinking your water, of course, the weight started coming off. So it's like I put myself through a lot of things so that when my clients come to me, I can explain to them, oh, I've been through that too. I know how that is.
Yeah.
Ro, my this, that hurt, my that hurt. And I'm like, okay, yeah, I know. But in order to lose this weight, you got to stay at it. You got to be consistent. Constantly, because it didn't just take me an overnight thing. And of course, I couldn't afford surgery. So it took me about 4 years to come down and lose about 150 pounds. And now what I do is I stay at it. It's going on 22 years that I've been doing this.
That's amazing because, and I think I can relate because sometimes my this will hurt, but my that never hurts.
What happens you're not working out that?
So I'm more concerned about the this than I am about that. If you know, so I don't. Yeah, that's right. And speaking of great stories, Michelle Pettis has a wonderful story that she has chronicled in her book. You talk, Ro, about losing more than 100 pounds. Actually, Michelle has lost more than 700, and a lot of people raise eyebrows when they hear her say that. And if you've not heard her story, Michelle, share a bit of your story with us. Not only the physical piece, but the mental health piece as it relates to food.
Yes, certainly. So first of all, I just want to say I am so happy to be at the table or in the screen with Dr. Castor and Iron Girls, because the focus on nutrition is so important, and the focus on how we move our bodies is so important. But Harold, to answer your question about my story, when I talk about the 700 pounds, I talk about a lifetime. I talk about 4 decades of yo-yo dieting, of losing 50 pounds, gaining it back, losing 50, gaining it back. And that cycle over the course, really, like I said, of 4 decades is how I got to that 700. And what would happen was that I could lose the weight, right? I could focus, I could use willpower, I could use discipline to get to whatever number it was I thought I wanted to get to, but I could never stay there. And finally, I got to the point where I just knew I needed to get off the hamster wheel, right? I knew I needed to get off the treadmill. And the light bulb came on for me when I realized that I wasn't making the mental shifts, and not necessarily saying that, this is a lifestyle, right? That I eat a certain way, that I eat for nutrition, that I move because I want my body to feel a certain way. Not a lifestyle, but it became who I am. Mm-hmm. And so I had to fundamentally change what I believed about food. And Dr. Castor was talking earlier about being deliberate and being intentional about our food choices and not eating out of frustration and boredom and all of that, all these emotional things that people say. And I will tell you this, for so long, my issue was this. And I think that it's the issue for quite a few people. I was eating too much of the wrong things for the wrong reasons, and I was doing it unconsciously. And it wasn't until I started to analyze every single thing that I put in my mouth, every single thing, that things started to shift for me. And I had to be, like Dr. Kester said, intentional, but I became intentional by asking and evaluating what I ate with 3 questions. I call them my power questions. Feel free to use them anytime. And that is, why this food now? If this food will not get me to the body that I say that I want, why am I eating it? And am I hungry or something else? I spent 40 years eating for reasons that didn't have anything to do with hunger. So much so that I didn't even recognize what real hunger was. So I had to sit back and start to really figure out what real, just because you feel something in your stomach doesn't necessarily mean it's hunger. So I had to evaluate and start making decisions and being mindful and really thinking, is this really hungry, or who just walked in the room? Did I just have a conversation? Did I just read something? Did I just hear something that sent me in a different direction? Am I frustrated? Or is something else going on that makes me want to pick up this bag of chips?
Talk to me.
Little shifts I needed to make.
And talk to me a little bit briefly, if you can, about the personal history, because I think that, particularly for Black people, we have a history and a relationship with food that unfortunately contributes to ill health. And Michelle, if you could talk about that. And then I want Dr. Castor to talk about that too, because you're originally from Haiti, and you have your own history regarding that too. But please, Michelle, go right ahead.
Sure. So the first thing that I want to talk, and I'm really actually glad that you asked about relationship with food. And to be honest with you, that is a phrase that I deliberately do not use, relationship with food. And once we get clear, once we get clear as a nation, as a culture, as a group, that the only problem that food solves is hunger, if hunger is not the problem, food is not the answer, then we can make a shift. And we have relationships with people. We manage food. So we have this whole thing that's in the atmosphere where we give food superpowers that it does not have. And we keep looking for food to give us joy, right? Well, joy is a body. Food, if we eat it, it goes through us and it's gone. So if we're looking for food to give us joy, that means we have to always be eating to stay filled up. And so the joy we get is when we are in communication and connection and relationship with other people. And even when we are in connection and relationship, when we are bored. When we're bored, we need to go out and find a fun friend to hang out with or something to do to activate our mind. That's how food robs us, when we use food to do things that it cannot do. If we are sad, then we need to call somebody that could be vulnerable and open ourselves up so that we can get the comfort that we need. Because macaroni and cheese will never do it. But we think that it will because we connect our memories to certain foods. And one of the stories that I'll tell really quickly at the beginning of the book, I talk about my uncle who stole a watermelon when he was a kid. My father gave him my grandfather gave him a beating so severe that my uncle, from the time that he was 7 years old until he died, never ate watermelon because he associated so much pain with this food. And the light bulb flipped on for me when I listened to that story, and I thought, oh my God, that's how it is with other foods that I had cravings for, that the feeling was so pleasurable, or I associated such wonderful feelings. I always wanted that feeling. And I thought it was the food that was giving me the feeling, but it wasn't the food. It was the memory, it was the event, it was the experience. And so when I learned to, and when I teach people how to separate the food from the feeling that a food evokes, then you can start stepping in and replacing those stories with correct stories, with deliberate stories like Dr. Castor talked about, and with the workout and the movement that you get at Iron Girls. But first, you got to recognize that you're not eating for the right reason.
Dr. Castor.
So you got to look at food from several ways. So there's the nutritional trauma that those that are, whether you're from Haiti, going to the transatlantic slavery, whether you're in the U.S. from slavery time, the kind of food that we're eating the scrape off the table. So there's that nutritional trauma that we pass on from generation to generation, right? So then there's the other thing is how we look at food. It's true, we should not look at food as a relationship with food because it's not a human being, but we need to look at the trauma that we experience with food. And we also need to look at food as medicine. The purpose of eating is so that we could maintain health, and then so that we could keep your body. So, but just like you take a Tylenol for the purpose of a headache, we tend to eat for the wrong reason, not addressing the trauma that we've experienced. Because if you don't address the trauma, then you're going to continuously participate in continuously eating the same way over and over and over again. I give you an example. My son does not eat cookies and cakes. I didn't give it to him. He was not aware of it. He did not even know it. Put him on daycare. What happened? When he asked for a snack, he said, "Can I have an apple or an orange for a snack?" They said, the lady was like, "Oh, look at that. Would you like a cupcake?" The lady introduced my child to a cupcake. And he's like, "Oh, this is like the best."
Oh my goodness.
That processed sugar operate like as if it's a drug in the brain. And because of that, you have a continuous need of having that sugar in your diet, continue to perpetuate the nutritional trauma, continue to perpetuate the violence that it causes the body. Because if you look at it from that perspective, then you will understand why you need to look at healthy food as medicine. I have a colleague, Dr. Linda Thompson, that's doing work to look at food as medicine. And you just see that if you look at food as medicine, then you're going to be able to change what you eat and realize if I'm eating a burger and I'm eating a French fry, so those processed food is going to have an impact on my body. It's going to lead to health issues, to the overweight, the obesity. But if I shift my mind and said I no longer want to operate with that trauma, I need to look at the mental health aspect of it, and I'll be able to make a shift. And once I make that shift, I'll be able to eat healthy.
Hold on, Dr. Castor. I appreciate I appreciate that philosophically, but realistically, there is no way in the world that I'm going to be able to pitch that to a lady when you're talking about taking her out to dinner. No, we can't go out to dinner because food is medicine.
Well, no, you could still take her out to dinner and make sure you choosing. It's a choice. Make sure you intentionally and purposely choosing the right food. You go out to dinner. Now, there's a lot of places that are conscious of healthy eating. You decided to have a salad. You decided to have a baked fish. You picked the right fish. You said, I would like my fish to be wild caught. You decided to make that choice. But when you choose a macaroni and cheese, knowing that that's processed and that processed macaroni, and then the cheese that's in there, the milk and all that stuff they're putting there could actually lead to clogging your artery. What's the choice? Oh, I'm gonna go ahead and choose the thing that's gonna clog my artery, spend the good money that I make from being my profession to health and medicine, rather than to travel and go to places that's gonna help. This is what we do. We have a tendency we have a choice to make decisions based on how we are feeling. We are feeling a certain way about food. This is the taste, or the tastes so good, but that taste could actually lead to you having all kind of health issues. I'll give you an example. I'm a whole plant based type of person. I'm not talking about vegan because there's some vegan food processors out there, meaning that if it's an apple, I'm going to eat an apple. I'm not going to eat applesauce. I decided that December, I wanted a vegan carrot cake. So I decided to have the carrot cake, but they had put some kind of sugar in it. It gave me a headache I had a headache the whole day. I literally had to drink at least 2 liters of water to flush it out of my system because my body's not used to it. But your body's so used to the processed food, it's not going to have an impact. But then you see the health consequences. We're talking about pediatric conditions that lead to geriatric health issues that lead that by the time you hit 50, 60, 70, your body's deteriorating. 1 out of 5 Black women have diabetes by the time they're 40 and 50. 1 out of 5 Black men have hypertension, but then those things could be reversed by changing the way we eat, by going back to eating plant-based food in its natural form, and then we'll be able to change and shift and wish the way our health. You have a choice. You could take that lady to a restaurant where she's going to think about being healthy and eat well and take care of her body, or you could contribute to her demise. Which one would you like?
Yeah, well, I'll see. I'll see. I'll see if that works. I'll see. I'll see.
What Dr. Castro was talking about is what we fundamentally believe about food.
Yeah,
it's
I understand
fundamental choices, and what we have to do is like eat not for what's on the plate in front of us, like for taste, but for the result that we want to see in our life. We treat food as the end. Food is really a means to an end.
Definitely the journey.
How we want to feel and how we want to show up, and it is indeed medicine. So when you fundamentally change how you view certain foods, in the old days, I can say, because I was a food addict. I would go to a burger place and get a couple of bags of French fries and eat the French fries before I drove out the thing.
Well, hold that point, Michelle. But Michelle, hold that point, because I've got to take a break in a few moments, and I don't want to lose that story, and I don't want to get hungry while you're telling me that. But before we do, I'd like each of you to share with our audience just one thing that you've learned about health and wellness. Indeed, just provide a quick resource, because I only have a minute or so, where people can go for additional information. Tanya, Ro, I'll start with you, a website where we can quickly go for additional information.
Yeah, it's going to be the name of our facility. This is a social change, guys. It's nothing you can do by yourself. It's got to be of a community and like-minded people. It's the name of the business and our social media, Iron Girls with a Z, athletics.com. All of our group classes and personal training and workshops are all in one place under one roof.
Okay. Dr. Castor?
So let's say the first thing, we'll go to the Department of Nutritional Sciences at Howard University in our college, because we have the faculty that's there that could help you. The second thing, the American Diabetes Association, the Heart Association, all these websites have access to resources that could actually help. But definitely tap into our department, and we'll be able to now help you be able to make healthy choices. We'll be happy to come and help put something together for the community.
Okay. And finally, Michelle?
Yes, my website for the book is Leaving Large, www.leavinglarge.com. And there you can find a free chapter or purchase the book, Leaving Large, The Stories of a Food Addict. And what I hope is that by sharing my stories and how I started to understand the real meaning of food, that someone else can see themselves in my stories.
I want to thank you both, all of you, so much. We are going to take a quick station break. We're going to say goodbye to our 96.3 WHUR audience, but this conversation continues online and on Sirius XM channel 141 HUR Voices, 96.3 HD2, and on 98.3 FM. 360 degrees of health for the new year will continue in just a few seconds. Thanks for staying with us. Our special edition of the Daily Drum, 360 degrees of health for the new year, continues now. I'm Harold Fisher. A reminder, we will not be taking any phone calls, but you can be part of this conversation using the hashtag WHUR360Health. I want to reintroduce to you our guests. Of course, we have some really fantastic women that we've been talking to today. We have Rotunda Rowe Mobley, physical fitness trainer with Iron Girls Athletics. We also have Tanya Lewis Wells, owner and operator of Iron Girls Athletics. We also have Dr. Shameen Castor. She is a registered dietitian in the College of Nursing and Allied Health Sciences at Howard University. And of course, we have Michelle Pettis. She is the author of the book Living Large, The Stories of a food addict. I want to continue the conversation. I think, Michelle, we left off at French fries.
So here's the net of it, Harold. If you fundamentally change what you believe about French fries, I can talk about French fries all day long and they won't make you hungry. But that used to be me. That was the only thing that I cared about. But now you mentioned French fries to me. I don't think of something, greasy and tasty and crunchy and brown that tastes good that I want to have right now. When I think about French fries, I think about that is an item that is going to keep me from wearing the outfit that I want to wear. That is an item that is not going to serve my body. That is an item that is going to slow me down and not contribute to my good health. So when we have to change the picture, not just the picture of two pictures, the picture of what we see when we see certain foods and the picture of how we see ourselves. We have to fundamentally change that. And when we do that, I won't say it makes it easy, but when we're able to visualize and have an imagination around the place that we want to be, then it starts to make sense to make smarter decisions about working out and exercise and the kind of movement that we have with our body. And it starts to make sense about eating for good health and eating because food is medicine.
I want to go
adding in the change of your community too.
Yeah,
it's hard to do it by yourself, but when you see like-minded people, there was a time where I had pictures of women I wanted to be like, and then when I started training with Ro, all of a sudden I saw how great I could look. And when you fall off the wagon, as sometimes we do, I could look back in my own phone and find a picture of me, not someone else, and say, I need to get back to her. But it was so, when I talked to her about it, she said, but did you see what picture you looked at? You looked at a picture of yourself, not some woman that you will never look like because you're simply not her. So it's also a change of community. Not saying you have to change out your friends and family, but you need to sometimes add to that with people that are going into a direction that you want to be in. And sometimes you have to do it away from home, being in a place where you have a lot to access and a lot of people that are going through the same struggle or a similar one that's gotten out on the other side, or you go through it together. If you're dating, our women here come in, they'll talk about dates where they've gone bike riding, or, hey, I've had them meet me at the gym. It's a mindset as well, being, like she said, very deliberate on how we deal with our day-to-day. We make change.
Which brings me to, to the point, Tanya, we've been talking a lot about food, but for this conversation, I also want to talk about feeling good and the physical manifestations of doing that. And of course, looking good. I know some people are interested in going from 40 ounce to 6-pack. And so, how do you start that journey without unrealistic expectations?
I'm gonna give that to Ro because she lives that every day.
Well, I think that what's really important is, not only just eating right and moving your body, it's being around people who's looking for the same goals. Being around people who are just as strived as you are, wanting to feel better, sleep better, move better. So this is like not just a gym or facility, sort of like a club, because people come here for that.
Yeah.
We have, of course, meal plans that we offer, but we also have somebody that prepares the foods for those who want to eat right. And what's so funny is that some people say, I don't eat spinach, or I don't eat greens, or, boiled fish, and I always tell people, you can always have your food that tastes good, but it's not always about how good the food tastes, it's what it does for your body. With that and exercising, it's a combination.
Yeah.
And that's going to help you to get to where you need to be. So it's always best to make sure that you surround yourself with the people who are after the same goals that you are.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And, when I started, I had always got a lot of people that says, Ro, I'm going to be with you. I'll meet you at the track, or I'll meet you. Never show up. Never show up. So I realized I have to do it for myself. I got to love me because I'm doing it for me. what one of the role models were Janet Jackson. You know, she was a big thing then. You know, everybody went to Janet Jackson's abs, you know, stuff like that. And I'm like, you know, I'm gonna go out and I'm gonna just keep that in mind. If she could lose the weight, I could lose the weight too. I started doing all the workouts and everything and inviting everybody. But I found myself kind of being alone, which was fine. But then after they saw that I got to the point to where I wanted to be, bro, I wish I would have joined you back and stayed with you. And, you know, and then of course, as the doctor tell you, eating is like, what is it, 80%? It's 80% of the regimen. Because in a way, you can eat right and still lose weight and don't exercise. It'll still work for you. But then you want that endurance. You want that mobility. You want to be able to move good. Again, you want to be able to sleep good. So those two together go hand in hand. You got to add them both together.
And what we've done here on top of all of that, because life is life. People get hurt, people get discouraged. We were smart enough to look at all of that collectively and say, okay, if you don't want to train today, guess what? We have 5 different types of yoga classes that you can go to. So if it's about just meditation or restorative or vinyasa, there's no reason for you not to come in and just be in the environment. When you're feeling out of sorts, sometimes just being in the space, you know, now a lot of times people are working from home. We can't tell you how many people bring their laptops in here and they do work from here. They say, we don't want to be home. We want to be in here. I'll come in and there are people sitting in my office on their laptops because they want to be in the space. It's just like being at a music concert. You might have went in there in a bad mood, but once you start hearing that music, you're feeling good. Well, imagine when you're walking into this atmosphere and everybody's pumped up, everybody different size, big, small, but everybody has the common goal to leave better than when they came.
Exactly.
And that stays with you. And that's why they show up the next day. And besides the fact, Ro will call them and probably come drag them in here. But it keeps us wanting to be here every day, even on the days we don't want to, because we love the atmosphere. And that's what we try to provide. And lucky enough, the folks that walk in this door want to provide the same thing too.
Ro, let me ask you something. How tall are you?
5'2", 5'3".
Okay. So at 5'2" or 5'3"?
Yeah.
Take your pick. And you said 320 pounds?
No, 329 pounds.
329
You're
pounds.
losing 9.
All those numbers.
If they're 4 years old and you said they're 3, they said, no, I'm 4 years old.
Yeah.
Right. So you know, 5, I'll give you the 5'3", and 329, you were, eloquently speaking, you were considered Rubenesque.
Yes.
What was your aha moment when you, after the conversation with the doctor, when you started making a change and you began to change your body and your mindset? Was there a point at which you said to yourself, I can do this, or I am doing this?
Well, you know, I worked in the health care, and we used to run through the hospital for codes. You would run through the hospital for codes. Like if somebody had a heart attack at one part of the hospital, I don't know if the doctor knows about this, but we would run to get that person on a gurney. So we would take the gurney and run through the hospital to find out where this person is, to put them on the gurney and bring them back to the emergency room, because I've been in the emergency room for 20 years. And I realized I couldn't keep up with everybody. You know, I would tell them, I'll catch up with you. You know, I'm trying to get down that hallway to get that person because, you know, time is of the essence. And I would never kind of make it down there. They're on their way back by the time I could catch up with them, and I'm turning around. I'm holding on the rails. I'm like, I can't do this. I'm out of breath. I'm like, something has to change. So I would say that was one of the aha moments for me. Again, like I told you guys, the doctor calling me fat. When I realized my knees was hurting, my back was hurting, I had x-rays. Doctor says, nothing wrong with your knees, Ro. It's nothing wrong. It's all that weight that's bearing down. I said, you know what, Lord? That's it. I've got to do something. I gotta feel better. I gotta sleep better. I gotta do better for me. And when I started on my journey, I was, I know we don't have a lot of time, but I was going up and down those stairs when I would take a patient to CAT scan, when I take a patient to X-ray. Then I started walking up and down the stairs, timing that. And then after I did that, go get my client. People noticed that Ro has been working out or doing the stairs because my scrubs used to be saturated. I used to just make sure I stayed on that regimen. Did that for years. Then, of course, I told you I learned how to eat right by taking a nutritionist class. Doing that, and just now, I didn't even get on the scale. The scale wasn't even my friend. And I know most women don't like getting on the scale because it tells the numbers don't lie. And what I did was I didn't get on the scale, but I let the people surrounding me, the people that I was working with, tell me, Ro, don't lose any more weight. Girl, you're losing weight, girl. What are you doing? And I would ask people, you could join me. Of course, they would leave me. But that was my scale. People looking and seeing the transformation because I knew they would see it before I would see it. And when they say, don't lose any more weight, and I'm wearing scrubs, I'm like, y'all don't know what's under here. I mean, I got to keep going. And I feel like if you see this weight loss today, wait until next week. I'm really going to do it because I'm like, I want to see that approval. I want to see that them noticing it. So never the scale, only when I went to go see my doctor. But that's what I did. And it was the aha moment for me. I got to start doing something for me now. I've got to live better for me now. And, not really for anybody around me. I got to feel better. My knees was hurt, my back, everything was just, I was just a wreck. And then my pressure, of course, was up. I was borderline of being diabetic. I figured I was too close to the borderline. I need to get back. Far away from it. So that was like some of the ahas for me. Enough is enough.
Before we went on air, I joked with Michelle about a big hair, small woman, but and I love your hair. But the truth of the matter is, when we talk also about not just feeling fine, but also looking fine. And Michelle, talk to me about, and we can talk about ego. I'll let you have that, because it's not just feeling good on the inside, but it's also liking what you see on the outside. And I was struck. You said, you've been in this process for 40 years. So I would say, so you started at 5 years old, because you look wonderful. You look wonderful. But talk to me about how you feel about what you're seeing in the mirror.
So I'll tell you about that. What I see in the mirror it gives me more pleasure than anything I could ever eat.
Wow.
And what I loved about what Rose said, her whole story was about making something else more important than food. And when we create something for ourselves that's more important than food, then the choice, it makes it easier to make healthy choices, because the food is no longer the center and our reason for everything. For so long, for me, eating was entertainment. It was an activity. It was something to do. It didn't have anything to do with nutrition. But once I made the shift, and you're right, Harold, for me, it was in my closet, because I became committed to how I wanted to show up. I became committed to how I wanted to look. And on this really shallow level, it was really because I wanted to wear cuter clothes. I mean,
that's fine.
I'm okay with that, because it got me moving. It has connected me to a deeper purpose, certainly, and a deeper passion. But whatever gets you off the dime, right? It was my closet, going in there every day until I got on this journey. I was mad and frustrated and pissed off because I only had 2 things I could wear, and those 2 things didn't look worth anything, right? And so I had this whole closet of 5 sizes of clothes, right, that I couldn't wear. But once I got connected to that, and here's what I call motivation for me personally. And if anybody wants to use it, they can. An outfit and an occasion. An outfit and an occasion, that was motivation. That was motivation for me.
Dr. Castor, I know you want to comment on this because you were kind of chuckling. Please go right ahead.
So what happened is these two young ladies got what is called their size fine. So a lot of people have not gotten their size fine because they're looking at somebody else's size fine to determine what's a size fine for them. A size fine for you was that moment where you were able to take that step all the way and not feel out of breath. And if you're able to run down the hall for that emergency room,
Yes,
help that patient get whatever it is. And your size fine for Michelle was be able to get into that closet, be able to wear her dress so she could attend her occasion. The size fine. But what I want to say real quickly is that because people are looking at other people's size fine, they're putting themselves at risk by developing eating disorder. We are seeing a high impact of eating disorder in our community as a result of trying to look like that person when really you want to look like yourself.
Yes.
You want to exercise for yourself.
I went through that for years.
Yes, you have to think about the mindset. And in order for you to do that, what we heard today was it is a comprehensive mental shift, physical shift, spiritual shift, and eating shift. So you have to change the way you think about food, change what is it that you want, what is your intrinsic factor, what is your extrinsic factor, what is it that's going to motivate you. Do you want to wear that pair of jeans that you had a couple of months ago? Now, for a lot of people, let's get back to COVID for a minute. We're in the middle of a pandemic that's creating mental health epidemic. So people are eating, but what they need to do is look at it from a mental health perspective, from a physical, spiritual perspective, and look at what is my size fine, what is my motivation, and what is it that I need to do to change. I need to change the way I eat. I need to change the way I think about food. I need to change the way I see myself, for myself, by myself, so I could make that move, so I could change what's happening with me. Don't look at anybody else, because a lot of things that we see in the social media are made up or fake. They're not real. That people are having all kind of enhancement. Let's not waste money on enhancement. Enhance within yourself by changing the way you eat, what you purchase, what are you eating, what are you buying, what are you cooking. Make the kitchen normal again, right? Let's make the kitchen normal again and start cooking again. Let's walk again. Let's do those things that we used to do. Yeah. There's all kind of accoutrements. There's the YouTube. You could use a YouTube video. There's walking around your neighborhood so that we could get yourself back, because we are going to get out of this pandemic eventually, but you don't want to at the same time be financially broke because you have to replace your wardrobe because you're 3 times bigger. So let's do it now. Let's do something slow. Let's do it right.
Yeah, I think that's an excellent point, and a lot of people over the past 2 years or so have seen that. But to the point about the mental health epidemic, specifically as it relates to stress, Tanya, talk to me if you can, and our viewers and listeners about the long-term impact of exercise and releasing stress, because I think people don't think about that a lot.
Oh, I mean, yeah, I got to be honest. I mean, I will say this: when we had COVID, we had one of the young ladies, and you know, not to put us there, but it was a great, you know, okay, we're on the right track. She said the churches were closed, but we were always, back then, we weren't in here. So we were all meeting at FedEx, and Ro had us out there, and we're all meeting up. And then we just start meeting up all the time, walking, you know, building new relationships and sharing community, right? And one of the ladies said, she says, wow, I love church. I don't miss it as much as I thought, because I'm here and I'm able to fellowship. So we thought, you know, that says it all. We're all stressed. And again, I can't stress, I'm only living through myself. That's why I feel like sharing, that share of community means everything. I'm the business side of this, you know, I always say beauty in the business. So I overthink, you know, I'm always on the verge of getting ready to have an anxiety attack because I can't shut it down. But when I'm working out, or if I'm wrapped around the axle about something, the moment I walk in, You know, it's okay, guys, we're going to go work out together, or we're going to go walking, or we're going to go do something. And then in that time, you do what we're doing right now, but just with other folks saying, hey, you know, I've been feeling this way, or they might share something they're going through. And you realize that what you're going through ain't so bad. Or what you're going through, you're not the only one. And then before you know it, you might laugh and wind up having so much fun that you forgot the thing that stressed you when you walked in the door. And for those of us, I got addicted to feeling good because I got tired of feeling bad. You talked about anorexia. I grew up, and I'm probably going to date myself, but back in the day when I was growing up, and I'm glad we're at this moment of loving Black folk. But when I was coming up, the world made us feel like if you didn't look like Pamela Anderson as a Black woman, you know, a Black girl, you weren't pretty, you know, and so we always wanted to look skinny, wanted to look like everything else but who we were. So now we're at a place where our sizes are celebrated, and that's beautiful. But now we have added stress. So again, that community, I always say, be careful what you pour in, and that includes people. So we're very careful and conscious because stress will always be there. That is what life is about. But what things you give yourself mentally and physically will help determine how you see yourself on the other side of it. We're consistently consistent to put ourselves in a position to fight all that comes through life, because it's going to come. Rose say it all the time. It's coming whether you want it to or not. How are you going to deal with it? Well, I want to deal with it feeling my very, very best self. And I have to take part in that. We both always say here, this is about being proactive in your life. We don't let life happen to us here. We help push ourselves towards the life we see ourselves and the life we want. And where we end, that's where God wanted us to be.
I only have a few minutes left, and I want each of you to share very briefly some final thoughts about feeling fine and being better for 2022. Dr. Castor, briefly, you're first.
So I would say be consistent about it, be purposeful, and take the time to make time for yourself. You know, we'll talk about self-care another time, but take the time and then you'll get there. And then it doesn't happen overnight. That's Ro mentioned, it took her 4 years. It doesn't happen overnight. So take the time, one day at a time, you'll get there. That's what I have.
Michelle?
Oh man, what I would say is this. I think that we all need to tap into the power of our imagination. And if we just visualize what we can be on the other side and keep results, the results that we want in our life, on how we want to look, how we want to feel, how we want to show up, keep that ever present, stay focused on the result, then that'll make the immediate decision so much easier.
Okay. Ro, some final thoughts from you.
Yes, I've learned over the years to love myself. Not worried about what anybody think anymore. When I was heavy and overweight and you would look at me twice, I would almost run, or maybe even to a wall, because I was scared of what you would think of me. Now, eating right, working out, which is medicine for me, it allowed me to love me. I don't care what you think. I don't care what you feel about me. I don't even concentrate on you. I'm just going to do what I can do for me and just please me and love me. Now I'm like a sanctuary that I'm just at peace with me. Back in the day, it wasn't like that. Today, I tell people, do what's good for you. Love yourself. Don't try to look like me. Ro is only going to look like Ro. You're going to look like you. So don't compare yourself with me. Compare yourself. Be your own challenge. And I just love me. I love me all the time.
And final word from you, Tanya.
Just what I said, finding a community of people, like-minded community people, that's going to get you where you want to go. Not saying you got to abandon your family, but sometimes we need to make the shift through our thinking, by also old school, by the company you keep.
I want to thank all of you for joining me tonight in this really great, positive conversation. It's been really, really enlightening, and I hope that we've been able to help our listeners and our viewers. In 2022, Happy New Year isn't just a greeting. It is a wish that we want for ourselves, friends, and family. New Year's resolutions of better fitness, health, and self-care are more important this year than ever before. But may be more difficult to acquire unless we really put our minds to the task of being better and feeling better. There's so much we cannot control right now, but we can do better for ourselves. I'm Harold Fisher. Thank you for watching and listening. Good night.
This program was produced by WHUT and made possible by contributions from viewers like you. For more information on this program or any other program, please visit our website at WHUT.org.